They played some great stuff. They've got some technically good players, and actually it wasn't the kind of boring, dull sort of Portuguese performance that we've come to see, and it's been successful for them. It was actually a front foot performance. The passing, the movement was good. Obviously, people like Bernardo Silva, who's playing for Man City, technically very good player. Silva up front. You've got William Carvalho and his power in midfield, getting forward. A few of the experienced players like Matinho and that have sort of gone by the wayside, playing for Wolves. Now Neves in there in his place. So they were good. The Italians, it's going to be a big job for them. And if they pull a tough group for the European Championships, it's no foregone conclusion that they're going to qualify.
Not at all. They were flat.
It was a bit confusing, too. The way Mancini set up his team. First half, they sat back. They looked like an old Italian side that was going to defend in the final third and then catch them on the counter. The problem is you got Zaza up top. You got Immobile, who can run in behind, defending a lot more. So you really don't have that outlet. And you saw that change in the second half. In the second half, they started coming out a little bit more. And what that just did is it allowed Portugal a little more time and space. And they carved them up. I think that this game could have definitely had more goals going Portugal's way. And you start wondering where Italy is going to find that striker that is going to allow them to score goals like they used to. And to me, right now, I don't see it.
The Dutch are obviously in a major slump at the moment. Could Italy go the same way, or are we not quite there?
I mean, they could. I don't think they're quite there yet, but they could. They could, because you look at the talent pool available to Mancini as he steps into this new job. It's nothing like this collection of players that's been available to his predecessors, even to Ventura. And you look at their performances over these two games, none of the Italian DNA that we've come to expect in their national team over the years appears to be intact. So they're not as commanding at the back. The midfield players, not particularly creative. And then we come to the striker issue. We tried Balotelli first up, Immobile, Zaza. I mean, Manolo Gabbiadini, who can't get a game for Southampton, has been in the picture. So if they're scrabbling around like that, it does make you wonder. I mean, what are Italy now? I'm not sure of their identity anymore.
Listen, anytime the U.S. plays Mexico, there will be a grudge match. And there's an understanding between each player on each side that when you go into this game, there's going to be a lot more eyes on you. They're exactly right in the sense that this is the bar you're set upon, where your coach will understand, can you handle the pressure? You're not ready for the pressure just yet. And I'm excited to see that. I think changes are definitely going to happen. And one of those changes I would expect is Eric Lehigh is probably going to play on the right side of defense. I think DeAndre Yedlin is the definite right back, but having some backup and knowing what Eric Lehigh can do in a situation like this is definitely going to probably happen. I would love to see Timothy Way start up top. And, Bobby Wood does a good job in a lot of the stuff off the ball. I think he still has some growth that can happen on the ball, holding the ball up for the team. Again, this whole process of young players, of bringing young players into camp, not having a ton of leadership, I would probably put a large bet on Will Trapp staying in that same position. I really like him in there. I think he was a bit overzealous getting the penalty. He knew it. He tried to get out of the way, clipped him a little bit. But he has the leadership that this group needs. I thought Jonathan Brooks had a great game. I think that we need to make sure that we get a partnership in the back and build off of that and allow us to then worry about what we need to do going forward. Because let's be honest, we have some options in the youth side and some proven players. So this will be a fun game tomorrow.
Here we are in Nashville, Tennessee, which will become a veritable soccer spot with an MLS franchise. And right now it's USA-Mexico. It's a friendly, Herc, but it's always a big occasion here. And there's some opportunities. So when you look at this squad, you look at this team, who has the most to gain, who has the most to lose?
Well, listen, there's no coach in place, so it's just optics of what the fan base sees, what we see. There are a lot of questions for me about Will Trapp. Will Trapp's, I guess, function or place within this team. Is he a better option than Tyler Adams at that defensive midfielder spot? Because when Will Trapp plays, it alters the perception, it alters the game of Tyler Adams and Weston McKennie. It forces them to play a more offensive role that I don't think really suits them. So I think Will Trapp has the most to prove / gain in this game.
When you look at somebody who could possibly make a move here, I mean, it's early. This is the beginning of the next World Cup cycle toward 2022. Who you got your eye on?
a few players. I think Timothy Weah is one of the obvious answers. Can he be the player we all hope him to be? He's at PSG. He's brushing shoulders with some of the world's best. He's sharpening his iron with the world's elite. Can he be that player now here at this national team level?
Okay, very exciting. A lot of opportunity for a young squad. It happens here Tuesday night, Nashville at Nissan Stadium. Now back to you, Dan.
Thank you very much, gents. Brian, you take a look at this, and it's a young generation. But it's Mexico. So there's still that edge, isn't there?
Oh, for sure. Listen, if you play for the U.S. national team, you get up for these games regardless if it's a friendly or if it's in the World Cup. There's no doubt about that. And, listen to Hercules. I really think Will Trapp is in the right position,
right?
Especially for what we need, and that is distribution. And Will Trapp can distribute the ball probably better than anybody else on that team at the moment. Plus, Tyler Adams is excellent at closing down space. When we get into situations where we're playing against teams where we should be pressing all over the field, he is a great player to have, a little bit more advanced. And he's played there with New York, with Red Bulls. He's played there with the youth national teams. And he's very comfortable, and not only in that position, but the work that is needed and required in that position. So I'd like to see that. I agree with the Timothy Weah part. I think Timothy Weah is a player that is very exciting to see. And if we put him more central, I think it gives us the option to play him behind a little bit more.
Sure.
He's got the technical ability to take ball in tight spaces, which is great to have, especially against a Mexico team that loves to collapse on anything that's played through the middle. I'm excited to see this game, and yes, it will be a grudge match again.
I think that Dave Sarahan has done a turn for whoever his successor is, in that he's opened the catalogue, and whoever comes in after him is going to have a really good picture of what's available to him from the younger brethren. And yes, it remains to be seen which of the older players are called upon. Obviously, a couple have called time on their international careers of their own volition, but of those that are still in the picture, obviously not many are available for this game, or not many have been called up for this game. But I do think that whoever the new man is actually being given a really good head start in terms of, he can't say, look, I don't know what I've got, I need a few games to settle in here, because the catalogue is open, and there is the collection of youth and young talent that's available.
If some of these guys do really well, and some of them have already done particularly well in the friendlies, going back to John's point, when the qualifiers come around, whenever that is for the US, and whoever the new coach may be, and that's another story, if they go back to all the experienced players that are available, as John was saying, they can't say, well, I've not seen so-and-so, I've not seen him defend, I've not seen him play in midfield under pressure. Because Brian was pointing out, whether it's a friendly against Mexico or not, it's still a grudge match, so there's going to be pressure down there in Nashville. So the book is open for the new guy to come in and say, listen, X, Y, and Z have done particularly well. I'm sticking with them in the bigger games.
This is a big surprise, obviously.
It's a big surprise to me. When Siggy Schmidt took the position, you sort of saw it as a long-term spot. I mean, it's a great job to have. It's a job that you're going to have money to get players. If you have an off year, you're going to have a chance to rebuild immediately. And so, to me, I don't know if this is just the fact that they're definitely not getting the results. I think there might be more a personal side, whether it's a health issue, whether it's, he's just not energized enough to do the job. But yes, it was a big surprise to me.
Jeff Carlisle, I was just saying something from Jeff Carlisle, our colleague here, saying, the statement coming out of the Galaxy was a collective decision, which Jeff's end to that was, not quite sure about that. So it's a little bit muddled, I think, who, and as you say, why somebody with such experience is moving out there. I think it looks maybe like he might have been pushed. I mean, that's kind of the way of reading into it.
Well, it's the timing issue, isn't it? Because LA Galaxy are very much at the wrong end of the table as we enter the business end of the season. You can see they currently sit on 38 points, 3 adrift of Seattle, though Seattle do have 2 games in hand. Jules, it's the first time really this week we've heard from Zinedine Zidane since stepping down as coach of Real Madrid, speaking on Spanish TV, alluded to the fact that he wanted to get back into coaching sooner rather than later. Does this surprise you?
No, not at all. I mean, this is what we've been briefed before. That's what L'Equipe wrote. Remember that headline where they were pretending that he was ready for Manchester United already? Well, the idea was that he wanted to get back to coaching. That doesn't mean he has, a job that's been offered to him and he's agreed to take it. or that he has one club in sight and that he's waiting for that club to sack their manager to jump in. It's just that I think now he took a bit of time off after leaving Real Madrid, and now he's ready to get back in. You know, whatever can come up for him, he will have a look at it, he will take it, not take it, but he's just ready to go back. And he was watching one of his sons playing, you know, in a youth team with his wife. When asked the question, and I think it was really a question of like, yes, I want to be back out there, I want to go back out there as soon as possible. But I really don't believe, I really believe that right now he doesn't have anything lined up.
It's a strange question for me to ask, considering what he achieved at Real Madrid. But is it a no-brainer to put Zidane in any job, or is it a risk considering that he's only been proven at Madrid?
Well, any job would be a stretch because. Clearly, he's not going to. Clearly, he's going to be choosy, but I think he has to pick carefully here.
So, for example, Manchester United, as we've mentioned before, there has been links and whispers.
Yes.
Obviously, that may not happen, but if it does down the line, how much of a risk is it?
A risk because it's going to be, unless things drastically change with playing personnel, which isn't going to happen. Then we know how big a job it is to bridge that gap. Particularly to Manchester City, but potentially to Liverpool, who have spent. I know United finished above them last year, but Liverpool seem to have progressed. It is because all of a sudden you're going. There's a different management here. There's one in managing egos and big stars and setting formations and keeping everybody happy and making sure you're picking the right team and getting results. There's another going out there and working with your chief executive or your director of football and buying players and almost rebuilding a team, because that's what Mourinho's trying to do.
Yeah.
Unsuccessful at the moment. So it would be a risk, and I think that's why he would be well advised to choose carefully.
With the conclusion of the international break, a chance to get back to club matters, and the big question, of course, always surrounding Manchester United at the moment. The situation between Paul Pogba and Jose Mourinho. Craig, the international break, has it given them a chance to mend any fences? Will it have done them any good, or are we just back to the soap opera?
Back to the opera, and that's been fueled again by some comments by Pogba that are there for all to see. So it is a soap opera. I was just saying to you there, I'm getting pretty fed up of it now because, you know, I just want to see Pogba playing well for Man United and showing us what he's all about. Driving United forward, getting the goals, really been the backbone of that team. And I'm fed up hearing about happy and unhappy in contracts and whatnot. The transfer window doesn't open until January. It's unlikely, as you know, Ross, that top players leave in January, and he is a top player. So we're probably looking at the summer, if he is going to leave, or indeed if Mourinho leaves in the summer, and the situation may resolve itself. As we are at the moment, he's a Man United player, and I think he needs to do more over the course of a season to aid and abet his under fire manager.
Both of them have got a responsibility, obviously, to get the performances right.
Yeah.
So, who has to give more than the other? At the moment, it seems like the Manchester United fans seem to be on the side of obviously Paul Pogba in terms of his marketability, his value to the club. But his value to the club really only remains if he performs
on the pitch. And look, I think fans will generally err towards, as you can see here, the star players, and they know. And you know, this is an online poll, so it's not a gauge of everybody. But Mourinho's been a really popular manager, but in the popularity stakes, he's not high at the moment because there are others out there who are seen to be more forward-thinking. He's pointed out that he's more successful than almost all of them, and he's probably right. But at the end of the day, the buck will stop with Mourinho at Manchester United. What I would say, and it was something that was reported by Mark Ogden, our colleague on ESPN FC, following Man United, is that within boardroom level, he wasn't backed particularly well in the summer, i.e. in the transfers of the centre-halves that he wanted, and also in his quest to get Anthony Martial out of the club. That was something he wanted to do. The club wanted to go in the other direction. So it's a bit of a battle at the moment for Jose Mourinho, as we all know. And the last thing he needs is his star player keeping throwing fuel onto that fire.
Fighting on a few fronts, isn't he, behind the scenes? Is the Pogba situation something he's going to be able to use if he resolves that to his advantage, or is the only way forward for him to leave the club? You see it being that much?
No, the only way forward is results. And what will be. But as I said to you, that's probably, where are we now? We're September, so we're probably looking at eight or 9 months down the line. In the meantime, there's a highly paid manager and a highly paid player who really need to get on with pegging back Man City and one or two other clubs who are getting on with the football. So please, just get on with your football, and we'll do all the other stuff come the end of the season.
Let's hope we can get everything resolved. Of course, next up for Manchester United, Saturday's trip with Watford in mind. Time to get stuck into the latest rumours doing the rounds on the transfer rater. Craig Burley with me as we take a look at 5 here, Craig, that are interesting to say the least. We start with Julian Weigl at Borussia Dortmund, the hot young thing, just turned 23. Could he be on the way to Manchester City?
Well, he might be on the way, but it'll be a little while. Because correct me if I'm wrong, when did the transfer? Has it been shut
about a week?
2 weeks ago at most. And anyway, yeah, Jules, he's not been playing as much as he would like at Borussia Dortmund, but as a player I saw quite a bit of last year. Obviously, Pep likes him. I could see this happening because he's the type of player that Guardiola would like at Man City. He's also the type of player that they don't have too much cover for now that Yaya Touré's away. Fernandinho's in there. De Bruyne's got injuries, so he's a very tidy player. I'm going to put a hit. Obviously, it would be January or stroke next year, but I think that is a possibility down the line.
Yeah, he's not getting in the Dortmund side at the moment with their latest acquisitions in midfield. Alessio Romagnoli would cost Chelsea a fair fortune, you'd imagine, but Sarri apparently wants to clear out that back line. Could you see something like that happening?
Well, I could see Sarri trying to clear the back line out, but I mean, again, we're talking, I'm going to put miss because are we talking about January or are we talking about the end of the year? It's up to AC Milan. They've got new owners. They're trying to build something that they're obviously really pushing for the top 4 this year. It's going to be a little bit of time before they're fighting for the Scudetto. But they've made some good signings, and they've got a top striker up front. They've got a half-decent start to the season. It's about keeping the best players for AC Milan, not selling.
Right, OK. Ruben Neves, could he be going to Manchester United to try and sort that midfield out? Is he the missing link that United are after?
Well,
to get Pogba firing?
There's just a huge Portuguese influence here all round, you know what I mean? And, he's had a great time at Wolves, particularly in the Championship. He's had a good start to the Premier League with them. I don't know. Where's Mourinho going to be? Where's Pogba going to be? Has he been? I'll say hit. We'll go on the positive side. I'm not sure. A good player. I just don't know what United are going to do.
Right, bags of potential, of course. Zielinski to Real Madrid. They need strength in midfield. They also need legs in midfield. Lopetegui go after the Napoli man, maybe.
Yeah, I don't see it happening. I think he's a good player. Obviously scored for Poland against Italy, which was a good performance from the Polish team, who did struggle at the World Cup. Good player. He's got some other Polish colleagues at Napoli. Napoli are a good side. He's a good player. I just don't see. I think Real Madrid are going to be shooting a little bit higher.
Okay. And Cesc Fabregas to AC Milan. Contract up next summer. Is he on his way to Serie A? Could he be the missing link for Milan's midfield?
Yeah, this is one actually, depending on how Chelsea go this year, I could see maybe happening in January. I've been talking about Fabregas going away for a little while because he's been becoming more of a squad player, and that's understandable because the legs don't propel him around anymore. However, with his experience in Serie A, and if they had a good enough supporting cast at AC Milan around him, he can still pull strings, particularly those little balls through for the likes of Higuain. So I could see it happening at some point in the near future, obviously the next 8 or 9 months, and I think he would be a good fit. And Chelsea obviously looking to go out and replace with younger players. OK,
well, the rumours, of course, will continue to do the rounds as the agents do their work, regardless of whether the window is open or not. We'll keep our best eyes across all of the stories as they develop. Keep it here at ESPN FC.
Well, of course, the last 11 months have been a bit of a nightmare for US soccer since the failure to qualify for the World Cup. But this has been quite a year. These youngsters are being highly tried. They've already drawn with the world champions France, a respectable effort the other night against Brazil, and now the big grudge match against Mexico. What can we expect, Taylor, do you think?
I think you hit the nail on the head. The fact that this is a transition time, so you've got to try yourself against better competition. Now, what the young players don't realize is this is the game that is the bar by which you're judged for the U.S. men's national team. Whether or not it's a friendly or it's a CONCACAF Gold Cup game or it's a World Cup qualifier, U.S.-Mexico is the rivalry game. Now, I'm not sure we get that necessarily on Tuesday, but the reality is there's going to be a taste of it for some of these young players that ultimately, when World Cup qualifying comes around and Gold Cup, the real action comes. But these are big tests for some young players.
Just at the moment, there's no Josie Altidore, there's no Michael Bradley, there's no Brad Guzan. So there's a new crop coming through. Let's talk about one of those players, Tim Weah, who's in that high-octane environment at Paris Saint-Germain with Cavani and Neymar and Mbappe. But he is getting a bit of game time. How good is he, do you think, at this stage?
Well, obviously, for a player that young to be playing with the first team of PSG, obviously that says where he is talent-wise. But obviously, you hit something that isn't being talked about enough, is that transition of real leadership. You know, Timothy Weah is a young player, and he's coming in with these high expectations from all the U.S. men's national team soccer fans around the world, and yet where's that leadership here? So we may see some growing up, some bumps in the road, but the reality is there's something there. The kid's got real talent, and I think we may see it from the opening whistle Tuesday night.
We've heard from Dave Sarakan, the interim coach, maybe the longest-serving interim coach ever, because he's been going now for nearly a year now. But he says there'll be 5 or 6 changes to the team. We don't quite know what they're going to be at the moment. But he did make the point, because somebody said at the press conference, 5 or 6 changes, doesn't matter what happens then in this game. And he said, you kidding? We want to win. It's Mexico.
Yeah, but that's also why you call in 23 players. I always find that funny when media ask questions, well, why are you making so many changes? Well, I want to see the players. That's why you schedule these friendlies. So 5 or 6 changes doesn't matter to me, because you still need to get some answers on some of those players. I think it's going to be curious to see, does Will Trapp play or does Tyler Adams play in that spot? You know, who plays up front? But again, young players are going to be tested in front of 30,000 plus. I think we get a good idea of some of those questions the United States men's national team have, and some of the young players will get an opportunity to play.
Yep. Be fascinating to see USA against Mexico. It's always a big game. 8:30, our coverage starts on ESPN.